is racism actually illegal in Brazil? Um, for those of you who don't know, here in recent times, there has been a video circulating on social media. Particularly been seeing it all over. Well, I'm not on TikTok now, but it was on TikTok heavy and on Instagram of a woman who supposedly is an Argentinian white woman, because Argentinians are pretty much white folk, um, being very nasty. She was in Rio de Janeiro, which is a very black city here in Brazil, and was being really nasty with someone, I think, who had been working at a restaurant, and she was displeased with something about the restaurant or about her payout at the restaurant, and she started to mock the person, making monkey sounds and calling him a monkey in Spanish and just doing a whole lot of low level stupid shit. And so that got attention all over social media, and she ended up getting arrested. So she was just an Argentinian tourist, I believe. She ended up getting arrested. I think they took her passport. They were threatening her with jail time. She was on social media boo crying, trying to use her white woman tears to see if she could get out of the situation. And I think a judge showed some pity on her ass, but it was just a real funny situation because through this incident, a lot of people in the international community were being reminded of the fact that since 2023, racism was actually constitutionally made illegal here in Brazil. So what does that really mean for a country like Brazil with the type of colonial history that it has, with the strange and very complicated race relationships that it's always, race situations and relationships that it's always had? Does that mean it's truly something that people steer away from? Does it change the insides of the person, or is racism just as institutional as it's always been here? I think are some of the questions that this brings up I know for me. um, so, just so you know, just to go over a little bit of the history of this actual law that is a constitutional law here in Brazil. um, they have a couple of different categories of racial or racism that is considered punishable, right? So when you're talking about racism against a group of people, okay, here in Brazil they call that racismo, okay, and when it's racism against an individual, they call it racial injury, injuria racial, okay. So basically, these are the two punishable types of racism here. And one of the things about racism, if you are convicted of it, there are three things to consider. One, there's no bail made available for you if you do get in trouble for, creating or causing any racial injury towards someone or being racist towards a group of people, right? No bail. Also, there's no statute of limitations on racism. So, that's something you might have done 10, 15 years ago. If it comes back up and there's proof of it, you actually can still be convicted on it, okay? And lastly, racism convictions come with fines as well as potential prison time from 1 to 5 years. So, they not playing about it. They put it in the Constitution. Now, I think it's very interesting though, because as we know, that doesn't remove the incredible um, gap between especially black people and the what are considered white Brazilians here, and the fact that the white Brazilians, even though Brazil is basically a country that is half either black or what we call pardo, which is like mixed people, so they got the indigenous, the black, the white, all of that mixed up. And I hate black and white because it's not actual designations of anything, but you know what I'm talking about. Darker hued, indigenous, darker hued, and those that don't have color. And so here in Brazil, this is just really, I forget what I was saying, it was dogs, but basically there's a huge institutional issue here. In other words, people of brown, dark skin usually have way less access to education, way less access to for instance, loans so that they can buy houses, way less access to good jobs. They're very much relegated to lower level jobs. And so, what I have seen over the years, because I have been coming here for over 20 something years, is that that has shifted in time. There are a lot more brown people that are having some access in some of these realms, but it doesn't look anything like the way it looks in the US, which also has a long way to go with that, right? So, what they've always said about Brazil is that in regards to race relationships and leveling up the playing field and giving more access to brown and darker hued people, they are about 50 years behind the rest of, or not the rest of the world, but particularly the United States with that. I don't know on what metrics they use to actually measure that, to make that claim, but it is something to think about. So when you come here and you're somewhere that is predominantly on the surface, very kind of white European style Brazilian people, or just very international, like the city I live in, Sao Paulo, um, you would think, it seems like people kind of stay in their place. You usually are not going to face any kind of outright racial activity that you can actually denote is racist. I really don't have any too much issues going into, establishments and being followed around or anything like that. Is just kind of overtly um, racist in that way. I haven't had any experience like that, but you can sense, that you might be unwanted somewhere, or you can sense that white folk are shocked to see you in a certain neighborhood. Doesn't mean they're going to go out of their way and be like, nigga, what you doing here, in their language, but you can feel a sense of the separation of folks, into these kind of categories, mainly having to do with economics and access. And because Black folk have been so denied access here for so long, there's just certain places and things that they're not expected to be unless in the capacity of a worker, someone who's doing some kind of low level service work, someone who's cleaning, someone who's repairing something. Okay. So these are some of the relegations of Black folk in terms of career and access to jobs and stuff like that out here. So, what does all that even really mean? I mean, if you don't live in Brazil, why should you care, right? Well, right now, a lot of people are talking about where they can potentially move, tired of living, under the tyranny of the United States. I know things have quieted down over the last few weeks since the Minnesota outrage and all that craziness, but I don't think that administration is done terrorizing and being tyrannical. I do think there'll be a next wave of insanity coming up. They're talking about potential war. They're still bombing in the Caribbean. It's just a lot of things. And even though it might not spell out direct safety concerns for, the average American right away, right now, it is something to be concerned about going into the future in terms of just the idea of, living somewhere that is becoming such an enemy of all of the world, raising children in that environment and everything like that. So a lot of people are looking at figuring out what else they can do, where else they can go. And so Brazil, I know, has been coming up a lot and has been in the media a lot, particularly because, people get so hot and crazy about Brazil around Carnival time. So we just went through Carnival and it was amazing. But yeah, we just actually this is the last day of Carnival. We're just finishing up what they call post Carnival. So today's the last day officially, right? Doesn't mean there won't be more parties or whatever, but so this is a time where a lot of people have Brazil on their minds. So this whole issue around racism and how it impacts people who are coming from other countries to live here, Black folk, brown folk, is that overall they have always said something about foreign people in that, in the kind of mentality of people in this country and of, just those that might be, for instance, connecting with you when you come out from another, from somewhere else, is that money white is you. That's the branqueamento, the whitening. Money whitens you. So if you can show that you have the means to be maneuvering in certain realms and doing certain things, you know, and you got black skin, it's not really as much of an issue because you're showing that you have the means to be doing these things. So they're more, it's almost more of like a social economic thing, you know, and what an access thing than it is anything about, you know, skin color. Because here in Brazil, there's so many mixed people. You know, everybody's so mixed. Everybody has some of something else, mostly, unless you go up north, like to Salvador and places like that, where there's a lot of, you know, really, really roots type African folk and, you know, dark skinned folks and people you would think you was, you know, you was in Benin or Togo or something, okay? Depending on what neighborhood or where you're at or what you're doing. Up in Bahia, it's like that. So, yeah, at the end of the day, the racism piece, you know, the illegality of it, plus the fact that, you know, it's kind of a mixed up society in general, makes it so that I would say those issues are kind of pretty minimal for most of us out here. Now, I won't say brothers might not attract the attention of some police somewhere, but police here in Brazil is different from police in the United States because in the United States, police are seen to be like real public servants are supposed to be. And even though they don't really do their role and do their job like that all the time, you know, you still can actually go up to a cop and ask them for help with something and they will probably help you, right? No matter who you are, what color you are, unless they're just some terrible, terrible, shady cop. Here, the police are very much separated from the population. They're more like military police. And they come from the background of Brazil having, you know, really just come out of being in a military dictatorship in 1985. So they are the remnants of that. Saying all that to say that's more of a very, very separated from the population type of entity, the police, the military police, and there are incidences where they might F with, you know, a black guy or some brown people, or they might think you're Brazilian, Afro-Brazilian, and mess with you because of that. But that is, I have rarely, scarcely heard about that. I mean, most of the issues that we have out here happen because of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, you know, messing with the wrong people and, you know, in bad neighborhoods, rolling with folks that are untrustworthy. We usually get messed up when we come to Brazil from dealing with the population, not necessarily because of, you know, racism or things happening or being done to us, you know, by any officials or anything like that. So it's a pretty chill country. It's saying all that to say it's a nice country. It's a nice place to come and settle if you are looking for somewhere to be. You do get the option of 6 months to be here if it's something that appeals to you. You know what I mean? So it's like it is a good option because right now with so many um, kind of countries coming up as being, you know, racist towards us, not wanting us there, you know, mistreating us even when we're there on tourism. Can you imagine mistreating the people that are bringing revenue into your tourism sector? You know, because now we're getting out and traveling all over the world like everybody else has been doing. But for whatever reason, still not getting treated the same in a lot of the places we go. And it's a lot. It's a lot of places, especially in Europe. You know, we hear about the poor treatment that we have been receiving in Italy, certain parts of Eastern Europe, just different areas. You know, it's nice to have options for, especially a move somewhere where you actually are treated, you know, pretty much like a human being. And so that's one of the things that I really tout as being like a quality of life, you know, supporter. Like my quality of life is quite good here because I don't have to deal with a lot of mistreatment when I'm moving around in the world. There's a level of humanity and respect for other people that just kind of runs through the core of the actual society, you know. So there's a certain amount of pressure that's taken off of your nervous system being here And then that is infused as well with just the undercurrent of just a kind of a joyful and lighthearted society. So you get that too. And that's something that I would say is really, really different from the US. It's been a long time since I have actually lived and made home in the US. And really, it's been a very long time since I've done it for like long term, meaning more than a year or two at a time. But um, I just don't ever remember really feeling that sense of peace, of belonging, of safety, of knowing that if anything, my community's got me. I don't have to worry about rogue police. I don't have, like, there was at no point in my life, not even living in Athens, Georgia, California, Atlanta, none of these, like, I never felt that sense of, I'm good. I'm good. I'm a woman. I've got children. I'm protected. I'm safe. You always had that agitation on the nervous system, the agitation, the disequilibrium of the nervous system, where you just felt like anything could pop at any time. And that is the experience that I remember having, just like being based in the US. And unfortunately, for many years we were based in the US Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, some in some different places, but mainly the U.S. Virgin Islands. And a lot of that same spirit followed us not followed us, but existed in the U.S. Virgin Islands too. So that's how I know that it's a spirit, it's an energy um, thing. And that wariness that you have to walk around with, not knowing if, somebody gonna start shooting while you're out trying to just take care of your everyday business with your children, all of that. I had the same thing in the U.S. Virgin Islands. It just was not providing safe space. And so even though you hear about all these things about Brazil, the fact of the matter is most of these cities and towns are literally so safe, so relaxed. People actually want peace and live it. And then you experience that here. So I would just say the reason why I'm even making this video is because I wanted to address our concerns, because it seems like a lot of us have been looking for reasons why we should just stay here in the US. Reasons why we should just accept, living in the US and accept the situation there because it ain't no better nowhere else. That's what I hear a lot of people say. And while I know everybody isn't looking to move abroad and doesn't need to move abroad, they can stay in the U.S. if they want, and it's fine. Folks are going to be good, hopefully, no matter where they're at. But if you're looking to preserve your mental health, if you're looking to, kind of infuse your life with more joy and a more kind of presence, being able to have a presence and a feeling of a groundedness on a day to day, somewhere where your system isn't riled up and your nervous system isn't flared up all the time, Brazil could be a good option. And the racism thing is not something that I feel like is really that impactful on a day to day basis. Now, as y'all know, serious, serious colonial history here. Very unique colonial history here. Brazil's a very unique country because it's a very mixed society, so everybody is quite mixed up. Um, their revolution and their release from their colonial masters, the Portuguese, um, didn't look like the rest of Latin America's. It was very unique to them. And so everything about this country is like in a vacuum, and they have created their own type of society. It's a very unique society. It's a very humane society in a lot of ways. Hence, them now making it illegal over the last few years for you to even express racial prejudice or racial racism towards other people. Okay. Good morning, daughters who roam. How are you? Thank you for coming on. I have been here just talking to myself basically. Hopefully you guys will go back, but I'll recap and go over it. But the whole premise of the video was to talk a little bit about the constitutional law that they have here in Brazil that is basically making it illegal for you to express or to show racism towards anyone, any group of people, or any individual. And so this has been in place since 2023. It is constitutional. They do enforce it. It is, if you are found, promoting any kind of racial prejudice, you can really have a problem. You can go to jail, you can go to prison, you can be fined heavily. What part of Brazil am I in? I feel like it's calling me. Well, right now, me and my children live in Sao Paulo in the south, but I have lived in Brazil several times. And I've also lived in Bahia, in different parts of Bahia. So that's where I think a lot of us tend to be drawn is to Bahia initially, because there's so many brown folk there, so much, it's just vibes and they're living in and it's by the water and woo woo. So I have lived in Salvador. I've also lived in Itacare and just traveled around Brazil a bit. I'm not someone that likes to be out moving around too much. I'm chill and I have kids, but I have seen different parts of Brazil, and there's a lot of amazing places to live here. But yeah, so right now I'm based in Sao Paulo. I live in Pinheiros, which is like a little kind of community portion of Sao Paulo. And I absolutely adore this city. This is my second time living in this city. I have spent in total 4 years living in Brazil. There's been some in and out, but in total, I've spent 4 years here. And it is my favorite place in the world. I've lived in different countries with my children. It is my favorite place in the world. Okay, you're in Medellin, and the color prejudice behavior is turning me off. Yeah, and and I was explaining that earlier in the video. Brazil has a very unique history and a very different take on race. They feel like, or they tell themselves, that it's a very mixed society where everybody's just kind of commingling and harmonious. And overall, you do see a lot of that. You see black folk and white folk just buddy, everybody together, singing, doing the sambas together, vibing together. Like you see that everywhere you go here. It is a reality and it's really beautiful. But what Brazil deals with is levels of institutional racism that are just set in there from the colonial time. And this is what I was saying on this video in terms of your day-to-day experience here. It feels very egalitarian. It feels like you're good. You can move from place to place. You rarely experience anyone mistreating you anywhere. People are very civil here. You might go somewhere, and if it's especially if it's because a lot of this stuff is classist more than it is race. So you might go somewhere and it might be a higher end place and get some looks. People check themselves now because racism is literally illegal. But you might get some looks, you might get some things. You know what I'm saying? And then you just brush it off and you keep it moving because at the end of the day, like I had mentioned earlier, um, money whitens you here. That's always been a saying about Brazil. That brancamento. Okay, so that whitening. So no, nobody's trying to go for that. The fact of the matter is, if you can show that you can be at that expensive restaurant, people are not really gonna F with you like that. They're not really tripping off of you. But it's more of that socioeconomic thing is what you'll experience here. And maybe just a touch. Because now a lot of people are more aware that because race and social economics is so intertwined, they better be careful and they better watch their words and watch how they move because it's in the Constitution now that you better check yourself with all that old school shit. So, yeah, I like it. I think it's a wonderful place. I think it's great to have children here. Do you have children? Or are you on your own, sis, in Colombia? I've never, yeah, for me, Brazil is, I can't imagine going anywhere else. I've lived around Central America. I have not lived around South America because I'm just not drawn anywhere else here. Um, I've lived in okay, you're single? Yeah, nice, beautiful. Well, girl, You are free. You will have the time of your life down here. And there ain't nobody I've ever seen come to Brazil and be like, oh yeah, I wasn't really feeling that. Like I just never seen it. I've been coming back and forth and living here. Yeah, I lived here. My first time was like 24 years ago. Like I've never heard of it. I've never seen it. The issue that a lot of people have with Brazil is that they can't be here enough. Like it's hard. Like they want to be coming all the time. They want to stay. They're not sure how they can stay, long term. So that's kind of more the issue. But yeah, consider it. Come visit. So Sao Paulo is a huge megapolis. Sao Paulo gets kind of a bad rap because it's such a big, sprawly city. And so a lot of people, because the main international airport is here, um, a lot of us will be passing through here to go to wherever we're going in Brazil. And so we're talking, 22 million people in this region, like here in the Sao Paulo region, inner and outer region of the city. And so that's huge. And so a lot of people, when they come here, they're just like, oh, it's just urban sprawl, it's just buildings. And Sao Paulo is so much more than that. But it's not somewhere you can just dip into and bop, bop, bop unless you have like a guide who knows exactly what you want to do, which I do offer tours and relocation tours, and I can guide people in this city. I know this city. I do this city. I do it. And um, so that's the thing. A lot of people think that, they come through here and they just see the big buildings and they're just like, we got this in the States. I'm good. They don't know Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo is lit, lit, lit. Beautiful city. And it's beautiful regions where it's jungly. Look at where I'm at. This is where I'm hanging out right now. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nothing but just pure people in the park playing sports, chilling, having fun, walking the dog, pure peace. Sunday morning, gorgeous park. Yeah, Sao Paulo's dope. So a lot of us are also, they are drawn to Salvador, like I mentioned, which is cool. Salvador is amazing. Lived there, love it. I also lived in Itacaré, which is in Bahia. Gorgeous town, way more rural, all about that nature vibe. If you're someone who needs just full on nature, Itacaré is fantastic. Um, but yeah, so that's the vibes out here. Rio, a lot of us go to Rio. I don't deal with Rio like that. I like Rio for a visit, but I'm not dealing. I'm not going to stay nowhere where I gotta be checking my back every 2 seconds. That's just not fun. So some people, they love the Rio and the excitement, and I think some people are more daring and don't mind living on the edge. But Rio feels very, very edgy, and very fun and light too, but very edgy. So if you have assets and things to protect there, you have to really, really be tight and on your P's and Q's because they will try to figure out a way to get hold of your stuff. Okay. So that's Rio. And then lots of different cities here, lots of regions. It's so humongous. Now, Brazil is very interesting because down until about where I am now in Sao Paulo, which is in the south, mid south, is great. Lower than here, it gets very, very white, very Euro. Actually, there are regions, especially down there where there's a lot of Argentinians and stuff down there in Florianopolis and those areas where it can get pretty racist down there. Because you got the Argentinians who are just notorious for that shit. They're straight Nazis. Then you have the Nazis that moved to Brazil after the war. You know what I'm saying? And we're giving safe haven back then to be here. And they live in the south of this country. So, like the south of this country, not really, not super friendly for us. There's beaches down there and what, but it's colder. But yeah, not really the place for us. I need the beach, but definitely want to prioritize safety. Oh, the beach. Well, safety for the beach would be probably there's a gazillion. This is a very coastal country. So you can get some safe spaces along shorelines. It would just probably not be the cities. Brazil, the issue with Brazil is not the towns. The towns are very relatively safe, mostly overall. Yeah, so it's definitely big cities. The big cities is where a lot of the crime takes place, obviously. Um, but yeah, Rio, nothing to be scared of. Got to be on them P's and Q's, like I said. But there's other beautiful cities in towns, like I mentioned one, Itacaré, really small, though might be too small. And then a lot of people like to go up north, which is too far from me because you can't really get out of the country from way up north. So, like easily, but you can go up to, you know, Alaguas, Pernambuco. Like there's different places way up north where you could probably find some gorgeous beach towns, you know. But you have to move around here. It's a gigantic country and there's a lot of places to see. Now, also in the state of Rio de Janeiro, though, they have a lot of in here in this state too, Sao Paulo. We have a lot of beach communities. We have beautiful beaches. People be thinking we just down here and it's just like kind of hot and cold, but like not really. Like we're landlocked. It's like not really. We're like 2 hours from, 2 3 hours from some gorgeous clear beaches. But you know, we're talking the Atlantic, so we're not talking Caribbean. That's where I came from. We're not talking the Caribbean where you're sitting in a bathtub type of beach. We're talking, do you know how to swim really well? Can you get out of rip tides? Are you a surfer? It's them kind of beaches, but still very pretty and beautiful. But like, you know, for people who are looking to just stay safe and respect the ocean and don't really have that agility and that capacity to maneuver in the ocean, it's like, you know, not really the best beaches. But it's nice. Now, the nicer, more idyllic, more Caribbean style beaches are definitely way up north. So, again, Alaguas, um, those areas, those coastal regions way up north. That's where you get the more idyllic bath like beaches, more Caribbean style, because obviously it's closer to the Caribbean, right? Yeah. And then here, lots of, you know, lots of towns, like, if, you know, I know you said beach, a lot of towns where you can be closer to like rivers, though, especially like in Minas Gerais, lots of river communities, waterfalls, you know, these kind of things. You have like so many options, and a lot of these places are super safe, super dope communities that look out for each other. Really beautiful. Pipa, yeah, Pipa way up north is supposed to be really dope and really good for global kind of nomadic types. So that might be a good lit look. For me, I love all of them kind of regions where it's like you just tucked away. But after a while, I got to where I just wanted to have a little bit more in like access. One, to just being able to, if I have to leave the country for something, not having to go through several days of travel and all this different stuff. So I prefer being here and being, you know, very exposed to the international situation and the big airport and all of that. But I can see people working out for you. That's a really good one. And they're building that out to be like a nomad, like a global town, you know. So that could be really good, like something that, you know, all of the infrastructure is good for someone who's working online, you know, lots of hostels, things like that. So yeah, that could be a good one. Um, let's see, where else is good? Some people like the south of Bahia. There, that's a beach. They've got Caraiva down there. That's pretty, but those are like real tucked places. Caraiva. They've got Ahial de Ajuda. That's there. That's there. Trancoso. So they've got some really, but I don't really like them communities. I don't really. I've been to that area and spent a lot of time there. Yeah, I didn't vibe it, but it's pretty and it's nice, and you could probably find your own niche and your own vibe there. But I much preferred where I was, which was more further up north in Bahia and Itacare. North, I would say it was it north. Let me get my visual together. Yeah, I think north. Mm-hmm. um, More central Bahia. We lived on the chocolate coast, on the cacao coast of Bahia. So it was like a lot of chocolate growing everywhere. We always lived where there was a lot of chocolate. We lived in the chocolate area of Costa Rica too. We're always living where it's like lots of cacao. So yeah, that is an option. Um, and yeah, y'all, that's it. If you are interested in coming out here and you want some support in your process, whoever it is, hit me up. I'll definitely put some links below. Um, but I mean, basically, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask. And the main thing I just wanted to get across to people here is that you don't have to come here with the same chip on your shoulder or the same fear and the concerns about constantly being judged for your skin color here. But I won't say that we're in the minds of those who, are that look different from us. I mean, they could very well still be judging us, but they gonna stay in their place most of the time. Thanks so much, sis. I needed this conversation. You have a wealth of knowledge. I'll definitely reach out to you when I plan my trip. Oh, that would be great, dear. Yeah, I will put links below. And then I also always put my email down there. Somebody just wants to shoot me an email. But the main thing is, yeah, is you're safe. You're good here. If you come here, you're straight. And I do have a lot of knowledge, especially about parts of Bahia and here. And also just about for those who are on a wellness journey. Um, that's the other aspect of my business. The tours and everything is one thing. And then, wellness and doing wellness here in Brazil is another, including the herbal medicine and all of these things. So, I can help people who are on that kind of a journey and are moving to Sao Paulo too, because I have been inside of this thing. We're trying to heal myself and sorting my health out in Sao Paulo. So I know a lot about that. And so there's a lot of options. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Does anyone else have any questions? Today we were just talking about, if you just came on, just about the law that was put into place here in Brazil so that, people have to check themselves. They can't commit, which is called racial injury towards any individual, nor can they actually, be racist. So, racismo against anyone who's a group, like any kind of group. All right. And so they have to check themselves. And if they are caught doing any of these things, not only are they liable with fees and a potential jail sentence of 1 to 5 years, but they also can't bail out. So there will be no bail. You're going to serve your time. And they there is no statute of limitations. So, I mean, that gives you oh, thank you, darling. Peace and love. Thank you. Um, that gives you a sense of how serious they are about it. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of strange because it's like, man, this place has always just been so complicated with the race thing. You see it, and so many of the people are what they call pardo, so they're very mixed. They have everything. They're indigenous, they're black African, they're white, they're so a huge over half of the population of this big ass country is mixed like that, or looks like me, or looks, like my son who is, part Senegalese, is very kind of dark skinned. How you would you? How you would you? Cutie little doggy. um so yeah, so there's such a huge population of it, and yet and still so many of them have been relegated to lower ranking, in terms of capacity, um uh, in terms of jobs and opportunities for education and career and all of that, and they've been institutionally locked out of a lot of things for a long time until recently. So there is a lot of leveling of things out that's taking place, but very slowly. Brazil has moved very slowly in trying to kind of balance things out for the people who basically built up the society, who made the country be able to start to be what's considered a great country. You know what I mean? The black folk, the brown folk, the indigenous folk were the ones that made all of this possible. And that's everywhere in the world. None of these countries would be anything they were if they weren't here robbing and pillaging and colonizing. And so we always have to keep that in mind when we see a place. Oh, yeah, it's a great country. Yeah, it's a great country, but it was also built on people's backs. And so they haven't done a great job at balancing that out yet. But I do see that they're working on it. We'll see what happens because remember, governments change, administrations change, laws get set in place, laws get taken out, you know, and and things happen, and we don't know, we can't predict the future. And with the instability and the influence of the United States and all of its evil that it's perpetuating and threatening other countries with all over the world, including Brazil, good old Big Orange has threatened and caused and was doing enough disruption here in Brazil last year. He kind of backed off. But yeah, so we don't really know what's coming down the pipeline. But for now, if you are thinking about a place that you can go as a Black woman, as a brown person, as someone who, just wants some peace of mind, is tired of being stuck in the rat race of the United States, running yourself crazy just to survive, just to pay bills, and then not even being safe. None of the monies, none of the taxes, none of the things that we pay for is still bringing any peace of mind at all in the United States. If you're tired of that and you're looking for somewhere to go, Brazil could be on that list. So don't believe the hype. Oh, Brazil's so dangerous. Brazil is not dangerous. What is dangerous is some of the cities in Brazil, and they're quite dangerous. I ain't gonna lie. But you better know, where you're going before you come. And then if you go, there's going to be a major trade off. Rio is quite dangerous, but it's also super dope. People love it. They go crazy over it. They want to be there all the time. You know what I mean? So you just have to know what the trade off is, and you got to know what you're looking for, and you got to know where to go and how to move. And there's very specific ways that you move out here, mainly because of the, petty theft is a big thing, especially in a lot of the big cities. This city, it's a thing, but I have never really had much issues, at all. I've never had any issues in Sao Paulo. I ain't never seen a crime, ain't never been around nobody. I ain't seen nothing in this city. Okay, the city is peaceful. I'm here walking in a little portion of the jungle that they kept intact because they do that out here. Lots of jungle parks and stuff. I have not seen it. I don't know. So, don't believe the hype when people try to put it in your ear that this is like some dangerous country. Like I was telling sis that just got off, I have never seen anyone come to this country and not drive themselves crazy trying to figure out how they can get back after they've left, okay? I did it for years. I remember boohoo crying the first time I left Brazil, which was 20 something years ago. Boohoo crying like a baby. Like, didn't even, was like, where am I going? What am I doing? I can't go back to the US. You know, like I was living in Salvador at the time. I spent about a year, and it was the best year of my life. And, Brazil just changes you. And so for me, I definitely have never seen anyone not fall deeply in love with this country. I just have never seen it. So I'll just say, take your time. I just got calls from yesterday from people whose kids and children, teenagers, different people and their family members are coming out here. A couple of calls yesterday. And that's becoming more of a regular thing because people are seeking to explore and experience places where they can actually feel like their humanity more. Um, I find that the U.S. Keeps you on like a kind of, in your humanity, but there's a level of like botism or roboticism of the society that you have to tap into to grind and actually make it happen. You don't really have to do none of that out here. You can just be like a natural person. And so a lot of people are wanting to have that experience again and feel that. And maybe there was a time in the U.S. where it was kind of natural. I mean, it was always racist, always violent. It's a very violent country. The United States is a very violent-based country. So, there was maybe a time when we were younger where it might have felt, but I don't think so. Because now with these files coming out and me realizing with me, I had a really traumatic childhood that involved being in the LA um, child services system, being a ward of the court, being an orphan, also being trafficked. So I have that background and now see that that was part of a bigger systemic thing that was happening everywhere, that was tied into the government, that was connected to everything. Just lets me know that it's never been good out there. It's never been good. It's never been good for a souled person who wants to have a good life, you know? And so there are places you can come. I feel like Brazil is one. We don't know. Again, I like to be realistic. We know America is causing all kinds of wahala all over the country, all over the globe right now. So we don't know how long it's going to be straight here. But for now, I feel like it's a good option because I don't trust the U.S. They was already messing with Brazil recently, causing problems out here, threatening things and trying to control the government from, as if this was a colony of the United States or something, right? So for that reason, I don't trust it. So, I wouldn't say to be overly secure, feel overly confident about anywhere. But I do think for those of us who are looking to just maintain our mental health and have humane experiences, that Brazil is a great option. Okay. So, y'all, unfortunately, I got this iPhone and this battery is terrible. So, does anyone else have any questions? I'm going to have to get off. I would just stay on and chat. But if anyone has anything or whatever, hit me up. I'm going to put my email below. We'll put my links